When Tarikuwa Lemma was 13 years old in her home country of Ethiopia, she was told by an adoption agency that she and her sisters were going to go to America to get an education and that they would eventually return to Ethiopia as successful, well-educated young ladies. But this, as it turns out, was a lie. Transnational adoption is the subject of our interview today, and she's joining us now via Skype to tell her, in some ways, incredible story. Tarikuwa, thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you for having me.
As I read your story, I think my mouth just fell open wider and wider. Sort of start with how you ended up coming to the U.S. to be adopted. What was your family told? What were you and your sisters told when you came to the U.S.?
My sisters and I came to America, and what we were told was an educational program. And when we got here, we were told that we were adopted. And I reacted with I was surprised and I was shocked. And I was like angry, and I was grieving over the loss of my country, my family, and my friends.
It's just amazing. At what point did you realize, Tarikuwa, that in some ways you were sort of stolen from your homeland and from your family, and that you would not be returning?
The moment when my adoptive mom sat me down and she said, I asked her, I'm like, when am I gonna go see my family? I miss them. And she's like, no, hon, you're not gonna go back, because this is a permanent thing and you're my forever daughter. And I was like, no, that's not what I was told. I was told I'm gonna come to America and get education and then go back to Ethiopia. And my adopted mom, and she was told false information about us too. The adoption agency told her that we were gonna be prostitutes, our dad was about to die. And so she has all this false information about us. And then I'm trying to explain to her, like, I was living a middle-class life in Ethiopia, and my life was fine. And you need to take me back because I don't want a new family. I already have a family in Ethiopia. So was what happened, basically.
You even ended up with a second adoptive family. Can you just take me through a couple of the deceptions that happened through this adoption agency in terms of your age, being allowed to speak your native language? Tell us more about that.
The adoption agency told them that I was 9 and I was actually 13. And when I came to America, my adoptive parents changed our names, my sisters and I, and then they prevented us from speaking our language. And then when I started grieving and I was angry, I'm like, I miss my family, my homeland. And she decided to send me to another state to visit her mother, which is my adopted grandmother. And when I got there, I'm like, when am I gonna go back to where they were staying at? And I found out that she told me she doesn't want me back. So I was separated from my sisters once I got to America as well.
It's just incredible. Tarikuwa, just sit tight for 1 second. I want to add into the conversation journalist and author Katherine Joyce. She is the author of the book called The Child Catchers, Rescue, Trafficking, and the New Gospel of Adoption, done extensive research on these adoption scams or fraud. Katherine, thank you so much for being here. I think the sad fact is, while Tarikuwa's story is tragic, it's not unique or unusual.
That's the incredible part, is that this is not an isolated example of things that go wrong in international adoption. Too often, a lot of the children who are being adopted by well-meaning parents, often in the U.S., who think that they're helping an orphan, these children are not orphans at all.
Yeah, in some ways, the adoptive parents are being conned, if you will, just like the family, the biological families in mostly third world countries.
Yeah.
So they think they're doing something good, you know, only to find out or not find out that the children were taken under suspicious circumstances.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that there are victims all around. I mean, I think Tarikuwa's story, I mean, it's hard to compare anybody who has suffered as much. But for the adoptive families as well, I mean, sometimes they bring children home who they were told were orphans, that their parents had died. The children come home and learn English and then are able to express, I have another mother, I have another family.
How How is this even possible?
Well, international adoption functions by bringing a lot of money into often developing countries, and there's a lot of profit to go around. Agencies are making money at this. Sometimes agencies are hiring local middlemen to recruit children from intact families who match the desired characteristics of U.S. adoptive parents, even U.S. adoptive parents who think that they're trying to stay above the possibility of corruption by adopting children who are older or who have special needs. The sad fact is that there is so much corruption in international adoption that it's very hard to know whether or not you're able to keep your hands clean.
Yeah, it's just amazing. Can you sort of tell me, are there countries that are the worst offenders in this regard? And are the local governments, the governments of the country, complicit in this?
Well, for the first part, I think international adoption, the interesting thing to know about that is it's a boom-bust industry that hops from country to country. So maybe starts in Guatemala, and then the program gets too large and it has to close, and then they go to Ethiopia. That program gets so large that there are problems and that closes. So now we're seeing increasing problems in a couple of other countries, Uganda and the Democratic Republic of Congo, most currently, but this is a pattern that has happened in country after country. And the government, it's different from country to country, but I think that in some cases there is complicity. I think sometimes the corruption happens, the actual fraud of forging documents or passing off an adoptee as younger, is what happened to Tarikuwa. That can happen at a very local level, sometimes with the involvement of local officials. But I think it's also a larger system of the government seeing some sort of benefit to being engaged in this program.
This is absolutely outrageous. Tarikuwa, let me just come back to you very briefly. Do you plan on returning to Ethiopia? What are you going to do in the future?
Yes, I am planning on returning back to Ethiopia. Actually, when I got kicked out of my second adoptive home, I was very close to buying a one-way ticket to Ethiopia.
Okay.
And then I just realized the life that I lived from people. I had no choice about my future. So know that I realized this whole thing happened to me because I was born in a third world country, and I felt like they were underestimating us about how people won't believe us when we're telling stories like we had a good life in Ethiopia. We had a family who were caring, and we didn't need your help. We didn't need you to rescue us.
All right, Tarikuwa, I'm going to have to stop you right there. Thank you so much for being willing to tell your story. We wish you all the best. And Katherine, Joyce, again, your book called The Child Catchers. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate having you.